Chapter 1. The call that changed everything had finally found someone who seemed to truly value me. My name is Billy. I'm 41, and I design industrial systems for Thornwind Systems in Phoenix. For 13 years, I was married to Diana. That Tuesday evening, while I sat in my workshop sketching ideas for a new hydraulic system, the phone rang. It was Diana, calling from her so-called girls' trip to the US Open. The moment she spoke, her trembling voice gave her away. I knew before she even finished. I've moved your inheritance into my own account, she said, each word cutting through the warm desert air. My boyfriend appreciates a woman who's successful. I placed my pencil on the desk and glanced out toward the mountains. $3.02 million. That's what my grandmother had left me just 6 months earlier when she passed. Diana believed she had just stolen my future. Thanks for letting me know, I replied calmly. Silence followed. In the background I could make out laughter, clinking glasses, someone ordering drinks. Ordering drinks. She had expected me to lash out, maybe beg her not to do it. Instead, I gave her nothing. That's it, she finally said. Billy, I'm leaving you. I found someone who understands ambition. All right, she hung up. For a long while, I sat listening to the drone of the air conditioner and the distant hum of interstate traffic. Diana had always been meticulous when it came to money. By trade, she worked as a financial planner at Wesley & Associates, guiding clients on how to safeguard assets and prepare for retirement. She knew every tactic for shifting funds and covering her tracks. All she didn't know was that I had already been keeping an eye on her for the past 2 months. Hecky, an eye on her for the past 2 months. Then my phone buzzed. A text from her. Don't bother trying to stop the transfer. It's already done. I deleted it without a second thought and turned back to my sketches. Tomorrow would be different. Asda. Diana thought she had outsmarted me. She had no clue what she had really taken, or how much I'd already done to protect what actually mattered. Botakade. The perfect planner meets her match. I wrapped up the hydraulic design just past midnight, then locked the workshop for the night. As I walked toward the house, I caught myself almost smiling. Diana believed she had outmaneuvered me. She couldn't have been more wrong. The house felt strangely different, without her belongings scattered around. No complaints about my work clothes, no sighs at my weekend projects. Sighs at my weekend projects? For the first time in months, my mind was clear. What I kept thinking about was how Diana's very expertise was going to unravel her. We'd met 8 years back at a trade conference in Las Vegas. She was promoting her firm's investment services, and I was there presenting new equipment designs for Thornwind. I remember being impressed with how she talked about financial security, slow, steady wealth, building, careful planning. Percy struck me as someone who could help me turn my engineering career into something more stable. 2 years later, we married in a modest ceremony in Tucson. Her parents came in from Colorado. My dad drove down from Flagstaff. Diana had wanted something grander, something more expensive, but I convinced her to save the money for a house instead. She agreed, though I could see the disappointment in her eyes when her friends flaunted photos of lavish weddings. The inheritance came as a shock to both of us. My grandmother had invested in tech companies back in the 80s, and her portfolio had grown far beyond expectations. When the lawyer called to tell me about the money, Diana was right beside me. I'll never forget her expression. As he explained the details. We need to be smart with this, she told me afterward. High-yield accounts, maybe blue-chip stocks. Nothing risky. At first, I agreed. But over the next few months, Something about her began to shift.
Suddenly, she was making more trips to New York, claiming she was learning cutting-edge investment strategies from East Coast firms. She'd come back talking about how much more advanced the financial scene was there, how Phoenix felt small compared to Manhattan. Or Farton. The first crack showed when I discovered a restaurant receipt tucked in her jacket. Dinner for two at a Manhattan place called Luron. $87 just for wine. She brushed it off as a client dinner. But then came the late-night phone calls she'd take outside, the softer laugh in her voice, the new clothes that didn't fit her life in Phoenix but seemed perfect for someone else's attention. 3 weeks ago, I hired a private investigator. Gerald specialized in financial infidelity. Within a week, he brought me photos. Diana with a man named Michael Torres at 3 Manhattan restaurants. Michael worked at a Wall Street trading firm, drove a BMW, lived in a penthouse. Gerald also uncovered that Diana had been shifting small amounts of money between accounts, testing different transfers. She was preparing, learning how to get her hands on my inheritance without raising alarms. She'd been planning this for months, maybe even longer. That's when I made my own plan. I would beat her to it. Chapter 3. The first trap the morning after Diana's call, I drove to work like it was any other day. My supervisor, Frank, even noticed I was whistling while drawing up designs for a new conveyor system. "Everything good?" he asked. For the first time in months, my answer was honest. "Yeah, everything's fine." Around noon, my phone rang. "Diana? Billy, you need to sign some papers," she said sharply. "My lawyer says we have to make this official." "What papers?" I asked. "Divorce filings and the financial transfers." "You need to confirm the inheritance money was moved with your consent." I leaned back in my chair, watching trucks unload steel beams in the blazing sun outside. Work like that, simple, honest with clear solutions, made sense. Diana's schemes didn't. So with Diana, I asked slowly, when you moved that money, how much was actually in the account? Don't play games with me. You know exactly how much. "But do you?" Silence. Then, at 3.2 million. Your grandmother's inheritance. A check again. I hung up. An hour later, while I was meeting with the production team, my phone buzzed non-stop. 7 missed calls. A dozen frantic texts. The last one read, "Call me now. Something's wrong with the account." I didn't call. At that evening, Gerald updated me. "Your wife contacted an attorney today," he said. "She can't access most of the funds. Turns out only about $75,000 was in the account she grabbed." I thanked him, then opened my laptop. My cryptocurrency wallet showed $3. 1 million safely spread across multiple blockchain accounts. Untouchable, untraceable, beyond anything Diana would ever comprehend. The real transfer had happened 2 months earlier, the day after Gerald showed me photos of her with Michael. The $75,000 I left behind. That was bait. And Diana had taken it without hesitation. She thought she'd stolen my future. All she'd really taken was loose change. Chapter 4. The real inheritance. The next morning, Diana called again, this time from her lawyer's office. I could hear a sharp-voiced attorney in the background pressing her with questions about assets. "Billy, you need to come back to Phoenix right away," she demanded. "There are inconsistencies with the inheritance paperwork. My lawyer says you've hidden assets and that's illegal during divorce proceedings." I looked around the shop floor. 3 guys were fitting together a new filtration system for one of our mining clients. Real work, real problems, things that had solutions. Diana, I haven't hidden a thing, I told her. You moved the money. You took what was in the account. That's impossible, she snapped. The inheritance was $3.02 million.
I have the documentation from your grandmother's lawyer. Well, then maybe you should call him, I said, before hanging up. Later that day, her attorney, Patricia Walsh, phoned me directly. Ha 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 ha. Mr. Thompson, we need full financial disclosure. Accounts, investments, holdings, everything tied to the inheritance. Check it. I'll gladly provide documents for any accounts Diana accessed, I replied. Back to the that. There's nothing to disclose. Patricia pushed harder. That's not sufficient. We need a complete accounting. Hey, then you'll need to subpoena my records, I told her flatly. Well, I'm not hiding anything. Diana took what was there. By evening, Gerald called again. Eve filed for emergency asset preservation, he warned. They're trying to freeze anything connected to your name or social security number. Not an issue, I said. The cryptocurrency wasn't tied to any traditional bank system they could trace or freeze. Still, Gerald was right about one thing. They would try to make my life difficult. Within days, the calls poured in. Attorneys, investigators, a forensic accountant. Diana had activated every contact in her financial network. One morning, the accountant, Stephen Clark, was waiting for me in Thornwind's parking lot, standing stiff in an expensive suit that looked ridiculous among welders and forklifts. Thompson, I'd like to talk about your financial situation, he said. I'm late for work, I told him. This will only take a moment. Your wife is concerned you've moved assets to avoid settlement obligations. I stopped working. My wife transferred money from my account to hers while on vacation with her boyfriend. Now she claims I'm the one hiding funds. Does that sound logical to you? Clark didn't flinch. A divorce cases often involve complicated motives. If you cooperate, we can resolve this faster. Other money she was after was in the account she accessed. She took it. Case closed. Mr. Thompson, $3.02 million doesn't just vanish. You're right, I said, walking away. Oh, it doesn't. Chapter 5. The breakdown begins. It was a Friday evening when I pulled into the driveway and saw her car parked out front. A shiny black bee. Michael's car sat behind it. She hadn't come alone. I stepped inside to find Diana sitting stiffly at the dining room table, arms folded, her eyes sharp with fury. Michael leaned against the wall, trying too hard to look casual, but his expensive watch and tailored shirt made him stick out in my modest home. We need to talk, Diana said immediately. No greeting, no pretense, just venom. About what? I asked, setting my lunch cooler on the counter. Don't play dumb, Billy. Where's the money? I raised an eyebrow.
Yeah, which money?
Michael straightened, clearly irritated. The inheritance. The $3.02 million. You can't just make that disappear. I laughed lightly, pouring myself a glass of water. Funny, I thought Diana already moved it into her account. That's what she told me over the phone while sipping cocktails in New York. Diana slammed her hands on the table. Don't twist this. You tricked me. You set me up. I took a slow... Oh no. You exposed yourself. You proved exactly what mattered more to you than this marriage. Michael stepped forward, trying to sound intimidating. Look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Either you give Diana what she's owed, or we'll make sure the courts bury you in legal fees until you break. I smiled for the first time. Michael, was it? You work at Torres Investments, don't you? You? Midtown Manhattan? He froze. His eyes narrowed. I do, yeah. I know a lot about you. Your firm's under federal investigation for securities fraud. Gerald, My investigator has quite the file on you. It would be a shame if certain details ended up in the wrong hands. Diana's face went pale.
Quite bluffing.
Try me, I said calmly. Oh, you think I'm some naive engineer, but I've been planning this since the day I saw the first photo of you two together. Every account I own is protected.
Every cent is secured. You didn't steal millions, you stole pocket change, and now you've tied yourself to a man who's about to have bigger problems than my inheritance. For a long moment, no one spoke. Michael tugged at his sleeve, clearly shaken. Diana's jaw tightened, but I could see the cracks forming. Finally, she whispered, "You'll regret this, Billy." I set down my glass, meeting her eyes. "No, you will." They left without another word. The sound of the BMW tearing out of my driveway was the sweetest thing I'd heard in weeks. Chapter 6. Desperation. The following week was eerily quiet. No phone calls. No lawyers waiting in parking lots. No late-night texts demanding answers. For the first time since Diana had touched the inheritance, the silence felt like freedom. Then Gerald called. "Your wife's boyfriend, Michael, just made headlines," he said. "Autora's Investments is being raided by the SEC. Insider trading, wire fraud, you name it. He's in deep trouble." I sat back, almost laughing. That was fast. Diana's name hasn't surfaced yet, Gerald continued, but she's connected. If she moved any money with him, even unknowingly, she's vulnerable. Her lawyers already distancing themselves. Sure enough, 2 days later, Patricia Walsh left me a voicemail. "Mr. Thompson, as of today, our firm no longer represents Diana. Please direct all correspondence elsewhere." That was the first real crack. The second came when I spotted Michael's BMW listed for sale online, clearly a panic move. Within a week, rumors swirled that he'd fled to Miami, trying to stay ahead of federal charges. Diana, meanwhile, sent me one last message. "We need to meet, just us. No lawyers." I didn't respond, not out of anger, but because there was nothing left to say. She had gambled everything. Our marriage, her career, her reputation, for a slice of money that was never really in her reach. I poured my energy back into work. The hydraulic project I'd been designing finally came together, and Frank praised it as one of the cleanest systems we'd ever built. For the first time in months, my hands weren't shaky when I drafted, and my mind wasn't clouded. In the evenings, I walked the desert trails behind my house. The air was dry and still, the sunset's blood orange over the mountains. I realized then how little the money itself mattered to me. What mattered was that Diana no longer had power over me. Her downfall had already begun, and unlike her, I wasn't going to lift a finger to stop it. Chapter 7. The collapse. It didn't take long for Diana's carefully built image to unravel. Gerald called one morning with an update. "She's been placed on administrative leave," he said. "Enrique and Associates can't have her handling clients while investigators are sniffing around. They're reviewing every account she touched in the last 6 months." I wasn't surprised. Diana had always flaunted her position as a financial planner, boasting about how meticulous she was with numbers. But that precision worked against her now. Every questionable transfer, every unusual movement of funds stood out like flashing red lights under forensic review. Within weeks, whispers spread through Phoenix's financial circles. Former colleagues avoided her, clients pulled their investments, and her firm quietly scrubbed her name from their website. Then came the IRS inquiry. A thick envelope arrived at my house by mistake, addressed jointly to Diana and me. It outlined a review of suspicious activity tied to overseas accounts. She must have thought she was clever hiding money offshore. Instead, she triggered federal interest. Meanwhile, Michael had officially vanished. No calls, no emails, no BMW parked in her driveway. The man she'd risked everything for had evaporated when things got tough. That's when the messages started. Billy, we need to talk.
This isn't how it was supposed to go. Please, if you still care about me at all, just meet me once. You don't understand. They're going to take everything from me. I didn't answer. I saved every voicemail, every text.
If she thought about coming after me legally again, I'd have her desperation on record. One evening, Gerald called again, his tone unusually gentle. She's drowning, Billy. Professionally, financially, socially, she's got nothing left. If you were ever planning revenge, I'd say you've already won.
But the truth was I hadn't lifted a finger. Diana had destroyed herself with her own greed. I simply stepped aside and let gravity do its work. The collapse was complete, and for the first time since this all began, I could finally breathe.
Chapter 8. The Aftermath. By the time autumn rolled into Phoenix, Diana was nothing more than a ghost in my rearview mirror. The lawyers stopped calling. The investigators moved on. Even her texts, once frantic and constant, had dwindled into silence. Gerald confirmed what I already suspected. She'd lost her job, burned through her savings, and was now renting a small apartment on the far edge of town. The woman who once dreamed of penthouses in Manhattan was living paycheck to paycheck, without the husband she betrayed or the lover she sacrificed everything for. I never gloated. I never reached out. The truth was, I didn't need to. Her downfall was her own doing, not mine.
My inheritance remained untouched, locked safely away, growing quietly in value. But I no longer looked at that money as salvation. It was just numbers on a screen. What mattered was the peace I felt. My days at Thornwind were steady again, filled with problem-solving instead of paranoia. My evenings were mine alone, hikes in the desert, a cold beer at sunset, nights sketching new designs without anyone questioning why I worked so late. Sometimes I thought back to the moment she called me from New York, her voice dripping with triumph as she confessed to stealing my inheritance. I remembered how calm I felt then and how calm I still felt now. She believed she had taken everything from me, but in reality she freed me. Diana chased wealth, status, and the thrill of ambition. I chose something quieter but infinitely stronger. Stability, honesty, and freedom.
And as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in fire and gold, I finally understood. Revenge hadn't been about destroying her. It had been about refusing to let her destroy me. The chapter of Diana was closed, and the rest of my story was finally my own.